that is transmitted by mosquitoes. Now, innovative and science has come up with a method and a technology that will eliminate malaria but does not kill mosquitoes. Now, that and much of that story, you'll get it in page 3 of the People Daily newspaper, and the story is by Millian Murigi. You can get that by Millian Murigi. Get to read that. At the same time, on the same page 3, men urged to take regular medical tests. It has been found out that men do not go for tests. Now, that and much of the story by Matthew Ndungu you'll read in page 3 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, moving into Kilifi, where Kilifi company on verge of Mpox jab breakthrough. A story by Ruben Mwambingu. That is, as alarming as surge in Mpox cases continues to spread across parts of Africa, including Kenya, a Kilifi-based medical device manufacturer, Revitol Healthcare, is on the brink of significant breakthrough. Now, we know so that Revitol Healthcare is on the brink of coming up with a device that is able to detect the presence of monkeypox, a disease that has posed a lot of threats and unrest in Africa, including Kenya. That and much of that story you'll find in page 3 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, moving into page 4, Azimio coalition teeters towards an implosion. ODM, opposition parties pulling in different directions after top ODM officials joined President Ruto. Now, a story by Samuel Mwangi. Now, what to expect in that story? Azimio principal, Kalonzo Musyoka, is leading on onslaught against ODM to vacate the opposition. Senior ODM members yesterday maintained that they had no pact with the Ruto administration. Now, at the time when Kalonzo Musyoka is leading a brigade to see that ODM is out of Azimio coalition because of the reason that some of the leaders in ODM joined to team up with the President Ruto, some members of the ODM led by Gladys Wanga, who is currently chairperson of ODM, now insists that they are part of Azimio, as ODM has no part to play in what's happening currently. Now, Kalonzo troop were forced to call off a scheduled Azimio la Umoja One coalition cancelled during which they planned to kick out Raila allies from leadership position in the National Assembly. Now, Kalonzo had planned with these people who aligned to him that they are going to kick ODM members from the leadership position in the National Assembly. That meeting was cancelled. Now you can read much of that story in page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, youths are asked to leverage on digital economy to change their lives. That story by Shaban Omar you will find in page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, the story that we just gave you a brief on, that is Azimio coalition tears towards an implosion. You can read that story by Samuel Kariuki in page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, moving on into page 5, Wanjigi arrested, faces arms charges. Businessman accused of being in possession of firearms allegedly after license was withdrawn. Now, the story is that Jimmy Wanjigi is accused of being in possession of 6 firearms even after his license to own a firearm had been withdrawn. Now, his arrest came when Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi, the businessman, had presented himself to the DCI. That is when he was arrested and spent a night in the cold. You can get to read much of that story in page 2 of the People, in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, in the same page 5, lawyers seek whereabouts of bank manager in 1.6 billion disappearance. That is one of the Equity Bank manager who had disappeared with over 1.6 billion shillings disappeared. Now his lawyer is seeking of his whereabouts. Now you can read much of that story by Gidraf Mwangi in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper, we have MediaMax Networks is hiring a digital commercial creative. You can check that advert and see whether you can apply. All that is in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, as we move to page 6 of the People Daily newspaper, state raises red flag over spike in Mpox cases. Now, Ministry of Health screening 10 of samples collected to be able to confirm whether they carry the virus. Now, the ministry has been screening to find out whether the 10 samples contain the virus. Now, what is actually in the story? Baraza urged the public, especially those with travel history to countries reported Mpox cases or come to contact with suspect cases, to be vigilant with symptoms like skin rash, fever, headache, muscle ache, back pain, fatigue, and swollen lymph nodes. Those are some of the signs that indicates that you may be affected or infected by the monkeypox. You can get to read much of that story by George Kibaso and Mercy Mwende in page 6 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, in the same page, commissioners unveils forum to boost peace in Machakos, a story by Genston Valusi. You can also grab a copy and read that story. Moving on to page 7, Kwale leaders criticize move to Tol Dongo Kundu bypass. Now, led by a section of MPs and senator, that is Association of Kwale leaders, have strongly criticized the proposed plan by the Kenya National Highway Authority to charge tolls on the newly launched multi-billion shillings Dongo Kindu bypass. Now you can read much of that story of what is happening in Kwale following the recent launched Dongo Kulu bypass, a multi-billion road in Kwale, to see what's going on. The story there is by Shaban Omar. Get your copy and read. Now, in the same page, you'll find 5 sins Governor Kawira is accused of committing in Meru. The story of impeachment of Governor Mwangaza Kawira, the Meru governor. Move of impeachment motion against Meru County believes Meru County boss list accusation she believes will down Mwangaza. Now you can also read that story and find out what is happening as this is in the Senate, as the Senate is finding out what really happened, is what the MCS bring on board, what impeachment of Mwangaza Kawira. You can get to read much of that story only in the People Daily newspaper. Grab your copy and read. Now moving on to page 8. State Teachers Union seek to avert impending strike. Remember, recently teachers had promised that they were going to down their tools upon the opening of the 3rd term. But the government is moving with speed. Now, tutors threaten to down tools if demands are not made by the time schools open for the third term. Now, story by Matthew Ndungu, you can read that story by Matthew Ndungu. Now, they state that the CBA, Kupet indicated its impending strike will be informed by the government's failure to fully implement 2021-2025 CBA. And also, the government has been taking teachers in circles regarding allocation of 13.3 billion for the implementation of the second phase of 2021 to 2025 CBA. Those are the reasons as to why teachers want to strike. You can get to read much and more of that story in page 8 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, in the same page, plea for students in private universities to attain scholarship. Now, that's a story about the government is beseeched to allow students taking medical courses in private institutions to get access to scholarship towards the education. Now, you can also read that story. The story is by Oliver Musembi and James Wakahiu. You can also read that. While the story about the teachers' strike is by Matthew Ndungu. Please get your copy and read that story. Now, in the same page, Wetangula in dogfight over failure to settle 298,000 shillings. Now, a Nairobi businessman has filed a case against the national speaker, that is Moses Wetangula, for failure to pay him 298,000 Kenyan shillings, as he claims that he had paid, he had sold to the Speaker of the National Assembly 2 dogs. Now, you can also get to read that story by Gidraf Mwangi in page 8 of the People Daily newspaper. Page 9 is the great football in the world comes to K24. Now, Maskania Machampe, you can get to K24 and find more on La Liga, Premier League, Serie A, German, and Man City TV. That you will find in page 9. Page 10, where we move to editorial, People Daily editorial, where number 1, we are going to give you quote of the day. We have different quotes of the day, but let me take on quote of the day from the Union Secretary Central, General Collins Oju. He saying, teachers shall down their tools and withdraw their labor, and schools will not open until matter is resolved. Now, that is what you see there. And also we have the cartoon of the day, Mwangaza Kawira in a boat, a sinking boat. At the same time, he's having a guitar that is also sinking. I don't know what the cartoon is all about. She's saying, Jesus will calm the storm. Get and find yourself a copy. At the same time, in the editorial, you find feature stories. Faith says, Sakaja has betrayed Nairobi. That's a feature story you need to read. At the same time, honest dialogue will strengthen our constitution. That's a feature story by Alberto Lenny. Get to read that. Moving into page 11, we also have impeachment must be treated with solemnity. Now, that's a story by Mbugua Nganga. You can read that story. Feature story there. Building African Youth for Food System Challenges. That's also a feature story by Shadrach Agaki. Get your copy and read that. At the same time, it is patriotic to pay taxes to a bad king. Now, that is what Mbadi said. You can grab your copy and read that and much more. Now we move to page 12 of the People Daily newspaper. Triton boss Devani released on 500 million cash bail. A story by Alphonse Mungahu. Now, the anti-corruption court yesterday ordered businessman Yagnesh Divani to deposit a cash bail of 5 million shillings to secure his release after denying charges of fraudulently disposing of mortgage petroleum products in September 2008. You can grab your copy and read that. And in the same page, we'll find a story of Joho in plan to boost blue economy via ship breaking. Now, industry involves dismantling of all deteriorating ship for recycling and extracting parts. You can read the story there by Ruben Mwambingu on how Joe wants to boost the economy, the blue economy in the nation. Get yours and get your copy and read that story. In the same page, you'll find head aunt on Osengeshu County after DG Barot resigns. Now, story by Winston Cheseremi. Grab your copy and read that story also. Now, moving on to page 13, where we have the advert. Every morning we have the advert of the People Daily. You can grab your copy and check on that. Moving into page 14. Page 14, a social media influencer charged with publishing false information. Now, the story was also there yesterday where she was taken to court. The famously known Scofield Aoko has been charged with publishing a false information on a social media with view injuring a reputation. Now, this calls on the youth and all Kenyans everywhere to be very careful on what we post on the social media. Now, you can get to that story by Caroline Kubwa in page 14 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, landowners up against court ruling on university. Now, tribunal disapproved CUA, the first respondent in petition for failing to satisfy legal norms. Now, story by Matthew Ndungu. This is story about the expansion of Mamangina University in Mutomo village. Now, the story is about expansion. They wanted to expand the school and some people have been paid, the neighbors, but this has come to a halt as now things are changing. You can get with that story by Matthew Mwambingu in the People Daily newspaper. Now, Nairobi MCS probe mismanagement of the city morgue operation. The famously known as City Mortuary, currently known as Nairobi, former now known as the Nairobi County Assembly, known as Nairobi Funeral Home. Sorry for that. The City Mortuary, currently known as the Nairobi Funeral Home, is set to be investigated and found out more on the mismanagement of the morgue. Now, you can get your copy and read that story in page 14 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, moving into page 15, where we have People Daily Business Hub, where we bring you business of the day. I will urge you to actually grab a free copy of the People Daily newspaper. People Daily newspaper is a free newspaper. Just move to the vendors, grab your copy and read as we give you the brief of what to expect there. Now, in business matters, KQ flies to 513 million shillings first profit in 11 years. Now, you can also read that story. National Carrier attributes milestone to 22% surge in revenue, fueled by increased passengers and cargo volumes. Now, we see that KQ is now making profits and they have made 513 million Kenyan shillings profit for the first in 11 years. And they say this happens because the government has pushed in more money and the passengers has increased. Now, the story by Noel Wandera is in page 15 of the People Daily newspaper. You can grab your copy and read that. Now, Kenya post 143 billion shillings in tourism revenue in the first half of 2024. Now, we see the tourism sector is also making a kill. You can also get to read that story in page 15 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, LG partners feted at e-commerce event. That's also a story you can get there in the People Daily newspaper in page 15. Now in page 16, Toyota dealers to take control of Thika-based KVBM. You can also check on that and read much of that. In the same page 6, coffee farmers eye higher income on global demand. A story by Nicholas Waitatu. Now, trading giant reaffirms commitment to continue buying Kenyan fantastic top quality being endowed with a satisfying smell. Now you can read a story of whereby coffee farmers are higher income in the global demand. Get to read that in page 16 of the People Daily newspaper. At the same time, Kisumu buzzing with excitement ahead of African cultural event. Now, the famously known as the 5th edition of the festival of the 5th edition of African Arts and Culture Festival is set to take place in Kisumu. Now, people of Kisumu are eager and actually waiting to check on that. You can get to read that story in page 16 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, on page 17, state differs base reserve price for tea. Move seeks to address bottleneck caused by existing pricing structure, which has led to an accumulation of unsold tea. Story by Ruben Mwambingu is found in page 17 of the People Daily newspaper. And at the same time, you can also check on Market Watch, that is Nairobi Securities Exchange. You can also check that in the same page 17. And also in the same page 17 is where we find X, that's the formerly Twitter, suspends business in Brazil over censorship row with a judge. This comes as a judge in Brazil has said that people who, if they are not going to conform with the laws and regulations, then they are going to arrest the officials. Now, the X is now suspending their business in Brazil. You can grab your copy and read that. Now, moving into the world news, that is in page 18 of the People Daily newspaper. Contagious diseases spread fast in Strait Storm, Sudan. Now, the diseases includes malaria, the diseases includes cholera. The research has proved that the diseases are now spreading fast in South Sudan. This is because of war that has been experienced there, and also heavy downpour of rainfall that is there. Thus, you'll find the story from Khartoum. Get your copy and read. At the same time, remember the famous story of Bangladesh country. Now, Bangladesh, Yunus offers to respect rule of the law. Remember, Yunus is one of the people who has contributed to the development and the economy of the country. He has also been feted with the word in the previous fast. Now, he is now the current interim prime minister for Bangladesh. Now, he has promised that he has pledged to maintain populous Asian countries' important garment industry. Now, story from Dhaka. You can also read that story in page 18 of the People Daily newspaper. Russia's Lavrov says US ordered Nord Stream attack. You can also read that story and more. Libya Central Bank suspends operations after kidnapping. You can also check that story in page 18 of the People Daily newspaper. Now page 19 is advert. We move to page 20, spies. Hollywood is in town. A contingent of American filmmakers, TV producers, creative directors, actors, and artists are in Kenya in a tour aimed at marketing the countries as top-tier global film and tourism hub. You can get to read that story and find out what to expect more. It ends with us. You can also check that story. And moving on to page 21, gel manicure and acrylic nails might look beautiful, but you can get to read that story. Have you been unknowingly increasing your cancer risk for the sake of beauty? It depends on what product you use. Various studies have shown that some beauty products have elements which might cause serious health implications. So if you know you are much into acrylic nail and gel manicure, please check out and read the story and find much and more in that story there. Now, agribusiness. Africans and Chinese stakeholders call for transformation of food system. That's a story you can also read in page 22 of the People Daily. Now, in page 23, click and clicks, morale boosting visit. Now get to that page and find more. Take off green agenda. Chinese solar panels light up Kenya's remote villages. Now you can read that. While Kenya's national electricity penetration is around 75%, residents in remote areas must rely on off-grid solutions such as solar panels. That you'll also read that story in page 24 of the People Daily newspaper. People Plus tell you a story. I sat my form 4 exams while admitted in the hospital. You can also read that story. Gideon Rono is a budding author. He's currently writing his second book. You can read that story. You can read that story of people who are now being successful. You get that story. Now moving into page 26, Time Out, where we have different programs of different TV channels. That is K24, Kameme TV, KBC, Nation Media Television Networks, Citizen, KTN, and also for the lovers of horoscope, get to check it there. As we move, we also have for the lovers of Sudoku, it is there in page 26 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, as we move to page 27, we have the adverts there, check out, and we move lastly to what we have in page 28, that is the sport, People Daily Sport, that's the People Sport, what to expect in sport. Akram's 85 tears Sheikh Union to dominant victory, story by Daryl Sheila. You can also read there. Going for a double, Chep Kimoy is set to chase 2 podium victories with recollection of Kipyegon's spectacular triumph still vivid in her mind. You can also get to read that story there. Story by Emmanuel Masinde on Sport Matters. Museveni flags of East African school games as Bukedia stands Tanzania 2-0. Now that's also a story on sports you need to read. MKU amateur game, Makosi, shillings 500,000. Betika wins secures future fund school fees. You can also get to read that story there. Nyahururu rallies to host Kasa Games or risk losing it to Bungoma. That's a story on Sport Matters by David Masharia. You can get to read that story. Now, Kenya's gold harvest. World Masters Athletic Champions result. You can also check there how Kenyans are harvesting gold in an event, athletics events, masters events that is going on in Gotham in Sweden. You can also check that story by Vincent Vioya in Gothenburg. You can read much and more of that story in there. Now, Dallas 7 champions, Cabras, Sugar, rugby football, club climbs back to top spot in national circuit. You can also read the story by Shadrach Andenga. You can also read that story there. Now moving into page 30, we can also see Mallorca and Real Madrid drew 1-1. You can also check there and find out what is there. Nyamweya warns FIFA's wrath if Football Kenya Federation meeting is delayed further. Now Nyamweya has warned that if Football Kenya Federation meeting delays further, the Kenya Football Federation may actually face some stiff measures. You can read the story there by Dennis Mabuka. It is in page 30 of People Daily newspaper. EPL stellar start. EPL stellar start. Man City cries post Chelsea as Arsenal and Liverpool all kicks off new season with comfortable win. You can read that story from London. At the same time, we bring you the tables of how it is in English Premier League. We have teams which are ahead. You can get to check that and much more to expect on that paper. Now we move to page 31 of the People Daily newspaper. My form is better than in Tokyo. Now, Chelagat says that her form is better than what she had in Tokyo. You can read that story and much more by James Waindi. You can get to read that story and more and more. Now, in the last page of the People Daily newspaper, we will bounce back. Gor Mahia coach Nieva salams poor officiating and El Merreikh Betu tactics for defeat, vows to turn tides during return leg in Nairobi. You can get to read that story of Gor Mahia and much more. My dear viewers, thank you so much as we have to come to an end of newspaper review that is in the vibrant morning. Remember to keep tuned. You can send us a comment so that we know where you are viewing us from. Just visit our Facebook page, that is Blackman TV Kenya. You can go to our YouTube page, that is BTV Kenya, TikTok, Instagram. You can also follow us there in BTV Kenya. Thank you for keeping tuned. Have a wonderful Tuesday. May God bless you. Meet you tomorrow, the same time, the same place.
Digital Graphics. We offer design, printing and branding services using large format printing, offset and digital printing. Our approach to printing, graphics design and branding is top-notch with quality services including roll-up banners, street banners, teardrops, reflective banners, telescope banners, vehicle branding, road signages, mugs, badges, t-shirts, polo shirts, hoodies, pens, letterheads, business cards, envelopes, receipt books, brochures, flyers, posters, calendars, magazines, wedding cards, plastic ID cards, funeral programs, and many more. We also have indoor and outdoor videography, photography, and live streaming services. Visit us at our Migori Market, Onyinjo Bridge, Tiendege Stage offices. Call or WhatsApp us through 07 0721379308 or 0736352224. Connect with us on YouTube and Facebook at Blackman TV. We are on TikTok as BTV Kenya and also Blackman Studios on Facebook as